And there are four primary excuses that I learned in SEAL training that have a correlate effect in everybody's life. These four excuses kill everybody. Everybody makes it the first 7 days. And on day 8, the excuses become real. Usually what happens right before you're successful doesn't feel like an excuse. It feels true. It sounds like this.
Welcome to the Performance Initiative Podcast. Our goal is to provide you and ourselves with the tools to be the best versions of ourselves. We are your hosts, Dr. Grant Cooper and Dr. Zenobi Mailer. That was a really interesting and inspiring conversation with a truly amazing person.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke with Thom Shea. Thom Shea is a retired Navy SEAL who served in U.S. Navy for 23 years with distinguished valor. Another among multiple interesting things about him is that he is the only person to ever complete Hell Week 5 times. He is a best-selling author of Unbreakable, A Navy SEAL's Way of Life, and his latest release, 3 Simple Things Leading During Chaos. He's also a founder of Unbreakable Leadership, through which he has trained thousands of executives and successful people to overcome chaos by applying 3 simple things in lives.
Thom does not mince words. He's a great storyteller. He has a lot of colorful and interesting anecdotes.
Yep.
We learned a lot from talking with him, and we're confident that you will too. Have a listen.
Thom, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate y'all.
Grant and I have read your books, and we've been really looking forward to talking to you, honestly, about so many different topics that we had a hard time coming up with where to start. So if you don't mind, we'll start from a point in your book when you describe one instance. And specifically, it was in chapter 7 of Unbreakable, where you talk about when you were extracting from hell and leaving combat. You talked about your awareness and passing through what others deemed as hell and how uniquely it linked to your internal dialogue. And one of the things that really stood out to us and raised an immediate question is that you talked about feeling powerful beyond measure, essentially after taking the fight to the devil. And so the big question for us is how does a person who hasn't been in combat get in touch with something like that? Is that even possible?
Well, as an author, I can say I'm glad you referenced the chapter, because if you were to ask me what I wrote about in the book, I've never met an author that reads their own book, other than the miserable editing process that totally invalidates your experience of writing. Multiple questions that I think have answers. I think I know this now, everybody has access to what I call internal dialogue. And maybe to define that is what we say to ourselves out loud and not so out loud. So this internal language that all humans have, that's what I call internal dialogue. And you do not have to go to combat to live in hell. I would say 80% of the people, even that you see as patients, are in their own hell, either created by an environment or an internal environment that is what I call hell. And how I define that is chaos that you cannot, it's trying to put sutures in water. It just doesn't work. So combat doesn't work. Nothing in combat is working. Your body doesn't work. Your buddies don't work. Your nation's not there to help you. You don't feel like you're of service to anybody. Things are falling apart. And what is unique about that experience is everybody there in combat is telling themselves something about that experience. And if you can pin that conversation down, you can control chaotic environments. And I think the SEALs are the only group that I know that constantly put people into unwinnable, chaotic situations so that they can learn how to find the one thing out of a million things. So that's chaos, looking at a million things. Like you having however many patients you see in one day. What if you had 18 times that number? it would be such a bad experience that you probably wouldn't do any of it very well, or you wouldn't even show up to work because that internal language goes, man, I can't do 80,000 people today. I think I'm going to go fishing, or something else that you can actually do. So the experience of combat, everybody's in. I didn't know that until I retired. Uh, Everybody's in chaotic, unwinnable, undefinable stuff on a daily basis. And at least I think I have found a way to get people access to that language inside that is talking to you and you don't recognize it. So that's a long winded way to answer that. We're probably dumber for having heard that, but
No, that's
Sounds
that's
great.
my
profound,
distinction.
actually. No, no, no. It's wow.
It's definitely
Yeah.
great. And so with with the teams, right? With Navy SEAL training and selection process, and then getting through training, you're put through rigorous exercise and then
Mhm,
rigorous activities, and then you go into Hell Week.
mhm.
And first of all, there was one reference where you would describe where Hell Week came from, and I think that speaks to why it was introduced and kind of to your point of chaos and overwhelming. And can you speak to that? Just a piece of history of
Yeah,
how.
a guy named Draper Kaufman, the kind of the grandfather of Hell Week, was tasked by the president, probably 7 months before D-Day, and the tasking was, "You guys need to create a force to go in at night into the" it's called the littoral zone, which is from the, you know, 50 yards inland of the beach to the breaker. So that water zone is the most unforgiving environment on earth. And we want you to go in there and blow up these things that will prevent these underwater obstacles that will prevent the ships from landing. Like the Marines got to get through these obstacles, otherwise they're going to die in the water. And the president said, that has to happen. So if you can't do it, I'm going to get somebody else to do it. And probably going to have a 90% death rate when you go in. And you're going to be under fire when you do it. So what can you design? And Draper's like, well, I don't want to die. Can you take your hands off of me and let me design a training that will give you what you want? So Draper and a guy named Phil Bucklew sat down and said, gosh, what do we have to teach these kids? And Draper Kaufman said, I just want to get rid of everybody who's going to quit. Like, if you're not going to quit, you're a different human being. And let's put them through every bad scenario relevant to the water line and being fit and working with each other. So let's put together a week of training where we get rid of everybody who's going to quit on themselves in terrible environments and just get dysfunctional. And he put together the training, went through it himself. And from inception until now, there's only been 11% of people who start graduate, and they cannot change that number. So 11% of I look at that as a beautiful number simply because that's what business is too. 11% of the people who do something difficult survive it. The other 89% fall apart.
Huh.
Hmm.
And that's business. That's probably
Yeah.
marriage too. 11% of the marriages grow and evolve. The other ones get stuck and, you know,
That's really
and the
interesting.
crap happens. Athletics is the same thing. If you're going for a top tier pro team, only 11% of the people make it to the pro level.
And you think a
And
lot of that is about even in business and in pro sports and stuff, it's more about people quitting on themselves.
100%. So that was what Draper and Phil figured out is you don't have to be the strongest guy. You don't have to have the best education. You can come from any background, like a rich background, or I was an abused kid, but in bad situations, how you process those situations is 100 times more important than your skill and ability prior to getting there. And so
And have they ever been able to figure out a way to predict who's more likely to thrive in those environments, or it's just 11%? No matter how you
they
try and
it's a
pre-select.
lot of taxpayer money has been spent on trying to, because it's very costly
Sure.
financially to lose a student. It costs $1 million a year per SEAL to keep them in training. To let students go through training, it's about 500,000.
Hmm,
And so at a 500,000, you're getting an 89% loss. And so I always
yeah.
laugh because it's ridiculous. Well, so the human being, most people don't get an experience of having to do something that's impossible. And they do notice that probably of the 11% that graduate Hell Week or training, uh, 90% of those kids have had rough spots in their life. And what is predictable in Hell Week is the top student going into Hell Week never makes it through Hell Week. 'Cause
Wow, no
they've
kidding.
never they've never failed at anything. And Hell Week takes everything away from you. You're
Wow.
dysfunctional within the first 4 hours.
That was
And you
something that you mentioned in the book that really surprised me, which is what you kind of just alluded to, which is that the best athletes, like the superstar athletes, are the ones that often have the most trouble with. I forget, it was the surf. There's a
surf
part of
torture.
the surf
Yeah.
torture. Can you describe that, and why do you think? I guess it's well. I was just curious what that was actually, the surf torture, because
Well, yeah,
I feel like
it's a beautiful design. So the first part of Hell Week is called Chaos. So it's about an hour and a half. You're put in a tent, and then they come in with flash crashes and blank ammo and a machine gun, and they're firing inside the tent. It's out of control. It's dark, scary. You're on the beach, and they make you do things that make no sense to you. Put sand in your mouth and whistle. What the heck? Don't, and then go over there and do a weird push up. I could describe it, but it'd get lost in translation. Go over there and stand on one foot. Put sand in your boots. Put your boots back on. So it's out of control, and you've been there for 4 weeks. And in the first hour and a half, 2 hours, people quit because they want regimented stuff in their life. I want
hmm,
to know how long things are going to last. I want to have purpose. So they took purpose out of it right off the bat. And then the surf torture, what Draper had written about is I want to put people in a situation they can't win. They can't beat it. No matter how good you are, everybody's going to lay in the surf. We're not going to yell at you. And you just got to get so cold that you feel like you're dying. In the summertime, it's a longer session. In the wintertime, it's really quick. And they have to get about half the class core temperature down to around 93 degrees, which is not, it's not friendly. It's very
wow.
not friendly.
Does it ever feel like you're gonna die? Is that how it
Oh yeah,
feels?
you feel like this is terrible. I can't function. You can barely say your name. You can't button anything. You know, if you had to like dial a phone, you couldn't. You're dysfunctional, and your eyes aren't tracking straight. It's right on the verge where you start collapsing because you get too cold, and your body starts shunting everything to your brain and your heart and your lungs, and that unwinnable factor gets rid of all the winners. Like if you have to
Hmm.
win, if you have a big ego, it just gets killed. And when the top guy goes, there's a wave of people that quit at the same time because literally internally, and having gone through, I went through 5 hell weeks, not through, but I went into 5 hell weeks. They don't let anybody do that anymore
Your
because
your
they end up
your your
like
your
me.
story with that is just out of this
And
world. It made me
and I
wonder
was
for
a instructor in 15 of them, so that what they're doing internally is the game. That's the game. Can you not have to win? Can you make a promise and keep it no matter if you're dying? Are you going to stay in this in the fold or in the fray? Are you going to keep trying to fight your way back to center? Is kind of what it's called. And then the third evolution other than the surf torture, is now physiologically, you have to warm these kids up. Because if it gets around 92, 91, they get to the point where they can't be revived. Like I've not seen people do well below 93 degrees. So they make you run a 4-mile time run. And they're like, if you don't get it in less than 30 minutes, you're out. You can't even walk.
Hmm.
And something extraordinary happens when you kind of go, I don't really care anymore. I'm just going to do the best I can. Some of the best times that you'll get in SEAL training happen at that 4-mile time run. Doctors are there. We have 4 surgeons that track it, and psychologists are there going, these people can't function. I can't believe you're making it do that. Oh my God, how did he run a 22-minute 4-mile? He
Wow.
normally is a 26-minute runner. How did he do that? Because physiologically, it's not possible. And so it's an interesting dynamic to see. And Draper was a genius to put it there. Is some people don't get the 30-minute. Some people do extraordinary things, which is we want to see these people do extraordinary things. The people that pass the time who get to sit around the fire. The people that fail, you have to write their name down and they have to go back in the surf zone. And people are quitting, like, I don't want to go back in. I already failed. I'm not going back in that surf. I'm out. And so then they line you up again and say, all right, here's the deal. You may have been unconscious when you heard us say this. You have to get 4 miles in less than 30 minutes. Line up and then go. So you start this 4-mile time run and you don't know as this is a student, but they only make you run 200 yards. Because if you're willing to do something that you've already failed at doing and put your effort into it again, that's the person that we want. They're not going to quit. Those few names that don't pass have never quit Hell Week in the history of Hell Week. And they learned, I'm just going to stay in this game. I don't care how miserable it is. Maybe I can't stay up with everybody, but I'm not going to quit. The rest of Hell Week is for the people who passed, to see if we can give you another scenario that's going to make you quit. And that's all. It's all done internally. Am I going to internalize there's a way out of this, or am I going to keep fighting back to my buddies? And that's the phenomenon that is unique to SEALs, is no matter what, I'm going to fight towards my buddy, whether I like him or not. Doesn't matter. That's an internal conversation. I hate him, but he's my buddy, and my only job is to fight towards him.
Friends, we hope you're finding value in the content. If you're enjoying what you're watching, please consider hitting the like button, help us with our YouTube algorithm, consider subscribing to the channel, and turn on the notification button to stay up to date with everything going on in the channel.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
No,
I've tried to articulate that over the years.
that's
It's
perfect.
difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll bounce back and forth between your experience directly in the teams and your application currently when you're working with executives, when you're working with people that are trying to succeed in life. But what would your parallel be now? What's your Hell Week now to the people that you're working with? When do you push them, and how do you push someone who's, you're not going to put them through surf? And how do you get them to, like you say, there is success starts after failure. That was a beautiful quote in the book that said success starts after failure. How do you make them fail or get to the point where they're not in danger physically? And
Yeah, what that's what. So to get to the curriculum, probably a 2-minute conversation. So after about 3 months after the Unbreakable came out, it was launched Memorial Day 2014, and which is a horrible conversation that all authors, you don't make money for a long time unless you get an upfront. And Stacy and I, my wife and I, were like, man, I better go work at McDonald's because this shit ain't working, y'all. And a guy had read the book and called me up and he said, hey, I want you to, do you have a curriculum that you can teach me what you had put in the book? And I didn't tell him that. So it was on a Friday, he called and I'm like, can I get back with you on Monday and we'll talk it out? So I stayed up for 48 hours trying to write down, do you have to go through miserable experiences to learn this internal dialogue? Do you have to get put into a divorce scenario before you figure out marriage? So you don't have to go through demonstrably bad experiences, and nor would anybody want to intentionally. Uh, so I've created a part of the curriculum to test your ability to make a promise and keep it over time. And that's not quitting. So if I make any promise, if I can keep it for 3 weeks, I can overcome anything. And come to find out, only 11% of people can keep any promise for 3 weeks. Anyone.
Interesting number.
Is that
It
right?
doesn't even matter. I could say do one push-up at 4 o'clock in the morning for 3 weeks. Nobody will do it because internally, what's going on is nobody gets access to what's going on inside their head very often. And we talk ourselves out of everything. So that's all Hell Week is you talking yourself out of it. Are you talking yourself into it, or are you disregarding the language and just doing what you'd promised to do? Or those are your two options. Am I talking myself out? Am I looking for a way out? Or I call those excuses. Or am I fighting for a way back in?
It's kind
And
of shocking to me that people that are looking for the experience, still it's only 11% that actually
yeah,
follow through with it. Because it's
well, I
already
don't kick them
already
out of training, which would be a bad business model, Uh, so most people can do anything for 7 days. It's a weird thing now looking at probably 4,000 people have tried to do the 3-week exercise. Everybody makes it the first 7 days. And on day 8, the excuses become real. And there are 4 primary excuses that I learned in SEAL training that have a correlate effect in everybody's life. These 4 excuses kill everybody, kill off everybody's ideas. They make a promise, and these 4 excuses come up. And the first one makes sense. This hurts. This physically or emotionally is difficult to the point where I can't do it today. Like I blew my elbow out. I can't do push-ups. My husband doesn't want me to do this anymore, and he's condescending. My boss is condescending. Therefore, I won't do what I promised to do. So the first one is pain. The second one is a weirdest excuse. I forgot. I forgot has killed more great people. Like I totally forgot. I forgot I sat in on a private equity purchase, and they'd been a year trying to get to this $2 billion purchase, and somebody forgot to edit and check something. But at the $2 billion value, you forgot to do something. I'm not going to invest. You copied and pasted from an old document, and the guy's like, well, we forgot. The first number's right. Now everybody loses heart with it because I forgot. Everybody does that.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
that's why there's alarm clocks for people, because people forget. And third one is I don't have support. So people can use that as an excuse. My wife doesn't support me. My dad doesn't support me. My boss isn't supportive. COVID hit. Oh my gosh, we can't do what we promised to do. Uh, whatever excuses that you guys have as doctors, and they're real. And you can convince everybody of the lack of support. If I'm not going to get this $1 million, I'm going to quit. Okay, there's another thing that's called support. The fourth one is usually what happens right before you're successful. It's a conversation that doesn't feel like an excuse. It feels true. It sounds like this. This is fucking stupid. This internal language kills people. Like a woman says that right when she's delivering her baby. This is stupid. Get this thing out of me. I don't even care. I don't care if I die. Get it out. And most times, right before you achieve something successful, like you've done it 99 times. I promised to do it 100. Well, I'm good now. It's stupid to do another one because we could lose it all. But you promised to do 100, and it's the catastrophe that happens on Everest having gone up. So in the you've worked for 2 months to get up this thing, and you see the peak, and you're like, okay, I'm good, and you turn around and you give up, like right close to the top.
Wow.
And so they kill those 4 excuses in SEAL training. I don't care
It's so
what
good, by the
happens.
way, that you brought those up in the book because we've been doing we're trying to do uh
The 3 week.
the 3 week,
Mhm.
and I'm actually on day 7.
Mhm.
And I found myself saying things like, especially in the morning. The morning for me is the hardest because
Yep.
the kids, we got to get, I'm like, this is stupid. Like, why am I doing this?
Yes, 100%. Yep.
And then, but because you had put it in my mind that that was a potential weak point, when
Mhm.
I hear myself say that, I can identify it and be like, oh, he said I was going to say that, and I am. So I'm just going to, and just
Yep.
move it out of the way. And so far, although I didn't realize that I'm
The
at that
breaking point.
the breaking
You're at
point.
the
So,
cusp now.
so it's good we're talking now. It'll hopefully propel me on to the next 2 weeks
Yeah,
of this.
so those are the so, it's kinda said differently in the SEAL teams, maybe it's a more apropos to say it non-Navy speak. You're either gonna keep a promise or you're not, and the person that can keep their promise is elevated to a level that other people cannot get to. If you can make a promise and keep it, you're a different human being.
And the
If you
reason you're
blame other
able
people, cool. It is their fault, but you still didn't do what you said you would do. And so in the SEAL teams, you either make a promise and keep it, or they just go, all right, get in the back. We don't need you.
Mhm.
We know it's unwinnable. We know we're outnumbered. It doesn't matter. We promise to be able to shoot accurately every time we shoot, even if you're down to 1 round, and we're going to fight until we die. Can you keep that promise? Well, what about my kids? My wife doesn't want me to be, I don't care. Those are excuses. So that's really that internal process, even as it sounds brutal. Uh, Everybody can learn that, but
Is that
everybody uses
basically?
those. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to ask you, is the way you learn that process, is that just an iterative? I shouldn't say just, but is that like you just have to keep at it, and every time you hear the excuse in your mind, you change the words around, or how
Well,
would
gosh,
you?
that's a great question. So, uh, if you want to continue to grow, you can't just do iterative practices that are comfortable. So
Mhm.
if I can do 10 push-ups, and I just keep doing 10, that's a great life. Like if you literally, if everybody just did 10 push-ups, 10 squats, and 10 sit-ups, physiologically you would transform. If you did those every day, people can't even do that.
Mm.
Uh, but if you want to grow, so the teams found this out early on. When you're teaching somebody something, you have to do iterations without correcting them. Like if you were to teach me a surgical procedure, let me do the procedure that you want. Say there's 7 steps to it. Let me keep doing those 7 steps.
I got some
But you'll
patience.
never really do that. Yeah.
No, I sorry. I said I have some patience we could do that with if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Back with that.
This is
So
practice.
now that I've learned it, I have to go demonstrate it in the real world. So, you learn something precisely in the teams in a benign environment. Anybody can do that. Like I could teach you all the skills that every SEAL learns in a benign environment. And then let's put you into hell, where now I have to do something really simple that I've learned in a chaotic environment that doesn't want me to do that. So in the SEAL teams, once you've learned something, they never let you win ever. It's let it fall apart. Oh, you forgot that. We're not going to cover it up. You didn't bring a sock. Who cares? You didn't bring a boot. That's your problem. Figure it out. So, oh my gosh, everything falls apart. The only time you can win in the SEAL teams is in combat. It's the only time they let you win. But that catastrophic mental problem of everything fails further weeds out people. God, I'm fired all the time. All right, you're fired. Let the other guys run it. You mean, oh my God, I can't go. Nope. You just sit and watch. Are you a good leader? It depends on if they execute without you. Anybody can tell people what to do. In the SEAL teams, they kill the leader very quickly. And are their guys going to do what they promised to do without you? Or your top people? Okay, Mike, John, you're done. Get in the wagon and let the platoon go do this exercise without you. Oh
Hmm.
God, like two top surgeons. Okay, you're both not here. See
Right.
if your PAs can do it. Never accounted for that. So that chaotic experience
Yeah.
is what's going on in everybody's head. They've already learned the redundant nature of everything. I know your job. I know my job. I'd rather do mine because mine is my forte. But if I have to pick up you're going to breach a door. I know how to do it. It's going to be slower. And then that transition that happens through failing and failing and failing to, okay, take a breath. Now everything's changed. Let's go do this the way that we have to. And then you go into combat where everything seems chaotic. And to SEALs, it's bliss. It's the only time there's no rules. You can get away with everything. And all I have to do is what I've been wanting to do forever. And then some people go a little bit too far, but that's okay.
And you
How would you I'm sorry,
go ahead,
but
go, go,
honest,
go.
so understanding that intellectually anyway, like how would you recreate that in a non-SEAL environment then? In other words, like the
Yeah,
idea of
well,
constant failure.
yeah, well, every environment has the ability to learn to honor your word and never give up. So those two phrases are paramount to the whole equation. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a nurse, make a promise, learn the skill that take to keep that promise, and then keep it by overcoming your excuses. So what I do in training is I teach people how to access or understand those four excuses and see how they come up and when they come up, and then how to overcome them when they come up. So once you've learned that, you're immediately different. Like, well, I can't hang out with Bill. Then don't hang out with Bill anymore. He's not going to help you. Get rid of him. And all of a sudden, we can keep a promise because Bill's not here, the naysayers. Like, there's no naysayers in the teams. Even though
And
under your breath, you're like, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. I hate this. I don't want to be here. But you don't complain when you get something that's out of control. Like you take on missions that are unwinnable all the time. And then you figure out, if I'm not going to excuse myself from being here, how would we do this? Oh, cool. So in business, I call it if you can learn to keep your word in business or honor your word, uh, do 3 things a day for 21 days. And here's the 3 things. You have to do sales every day. You have to find new clients and new opportunities every day. Or you don't have to close on them, but you have to be forward facing. Whatever business you do have, you have to touch it. It's like if you're on a project, I would try to find a new project or new sales. And I have a client, so I have to contact a client today and then write down in 3 years what would it be like 3 years from now if everything worked out. Those 3 things, make a promise to do that for 21 days. People won't do it.
Mhm.
It may take 90 minutes to do those 3 things. But I use these excuses. People use these excuses without even recognizing. Well, I'm busy. What are you busy doing? Do sales, do project management or operations, and do strategy every day. well, it's so much easier to deal with existing business. It is, but you don't go anywhere if you just do one. So, and then I've not seen anybody at the C-suite level be able to do those 3 things for 21 days.
Amazing.
I think
And in your process of when you're describing the 3-week challenge, and then the next thing that you're describing is the repelling, right?
Mhm.
Repel from a height, and we have already committed. We've already found a place to repel. So,
whoa, he committed. I'm on.
Well, you do come down here, we'll do it. There's a beautiful wall that we can
We're in
do
the
it.
discussion phase here.
well, all right. Well, so here's the thing. I've been fascinated with the teams for a long time, and just going to tell you where most of it kind of clicked for me is that majority of my life I can attribute to martial arts. And I was at a seminar. I was 17, 18, 1992, I think. This is before UFC. And this was Paul Vunak seminar on knife and stick fighting. And there were two guys from the teams. And it only now made sense why they were there, because you had mentioned that in the teams you guys are encouraged to go out and
Mhm.
find better ways to do things. And great guys, great conversation. And I remember this so vividly that there was a drill where we would do sparring with practice knives. And at that time, I was very much into this, and I faced off with a number of guys that were competition, and they were doing a number of things. And then I got paired with one of the guys from the teams, and
Mhm.
then the sticks hit. That's when you start. And we went from kind of talking to a switch being flipped. The only way that I can describe this is two things. For one, my own feeling is, uh-oh, I, I don't want to be here. I'm
Mhm.
looking
Mhm.
at him, and I know that he's going to go through me. He's going to go through the wall behind me, and I cannot say why that was.
Mm.
And the second thing was that he had this absolute calm and determination about him. And these were both of these guys. And that just completely blew me away. That and my fascination with that training has really never lost steam since then. And it's so interesting that to think about that you can do these things to trigger that internal dialogue, and
Mm.
to really use these specific examples to bring it to the surface. And is
Mhm.
that why the repelling, that you're trying to number one, give yourself a word that you are going to do it, and number two, bring out that all of those excuses?
No, I think it's a correlate activity. So, uh, there are 5 fears that all humans have. The first one in the physical space is the fear of death. The fear of death prevents you from living a great physical life, literally. So everybody's so afraid that this will kill them by experiencing pain that they don't engage. The intellectual fear is the fear that somebody's going to find out that I'm dumb. Therefore, people don't learn. The fear of being found out prevents people from trying to learn Hebrew, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I won't be able to speak it well. So
Right.
therefore, I'll stop, because fear as an emotion locks you up from action. That's what it's designed to do until you learn it. The only way to overcome that is to engage. Anything that you're afraid of, once you engage it, the fear is gone. So fear of dying, fear of being found out. In business, the fear of loss prevent people from doing really well in business. That ain't going to work. Let's not leverage something because it's not going to work. Therefore, we didn't go an inch closer to it. Relationally, it's the fear of being alone. Like, the fear of being alone prevents people from deep commitment to another person. I'm afraid if I go all in with him or her, she's going to leave, he's going to leave. Therefore, I don't. And the spiritual fear, which you mentioned earlier, is we're so afraid that we're powerful beyond measure that we don't get any access to God, because we're afraid he's the only one that's powerful. I shouldn't seek knowledge in that space. So those 5 fears. In the teams, they make you face everything that's a fear by going and doing it. So what you saw is probably a veteran guy that wasn't afraid. You may beat him, but he's still tearing off tissue at the same time. So
Yeah.
that immediate calm is I recognize that I'm afraid. Good. Now I'm going to go all in. I don't care if I lose, but I'm going to learn something from it, as opposed to, oh my gosh, can you show me that technique again? I'm afraid. Am I going to get cut? He's going to poke my eye out. So imagine if you were engaged with somebody that wasn't afraid. That's a whole different human being. Yep, you're probably better than me, but I'm you can beat me, but I'm still gonna kill your kids. That oh my gosh. So that person is a unique person that doesn't engage with fear. They're just fearless. And you SEALs who have fear are detriment to everybody. Because everything
I,
we're gonna do is you jump out of an airplane, you're gonna die. So go full bore. Do it the best you can, and you have to ride it out to 2 inches from the ground. So you're still fighting and not being afraid 2 inches from the ground.
So
Uh,
are you actually not feeling the fear, or are you accustomed to feeling that fear and diving right in?
uh, well, so if I notice that I'm locked up, I would call that fear. Therefore, I need to go 100% now. Maybe I need to learn something before I go back into that, like the climbing and the rappelling. Uh, you're going to die. You feel like you're going to die because most people don't have any knowledge in it. Those top climbers have so much experience in that, being gripped by fear. They're like, okay, I the rope is there. I'm not going to fall. So I used to take every client on a 100-foot rappel, and then they have to climb up 100 foot. Just do what you're supposed to do. And
yeah.
when you're gripped with fear, you don't even listen to the rappel master. Clip your belay device in. They can't even clip in, like they're sweating. Oh my gosh, we're standing here because fear prevents everything from happening. And once you encounter one fear and work your way through it, the next fear is simple to encounter. Well, I'm getting nervous here. Why are you nervous? Pay attention, ask questions, and engage. You got to go over the lip of the cliff. And you can tell them 1,000 times. Once they get over it, they're like, well, that was easy. Internally, that was not easy for you. Physically, it was very simple. And then, how you climb up something that's catastrophically hard and you could fall and die is just do one thing that you can do, and then do another thing that you can do. So I always tell them at the bottom, just make one move and rest. Don't be heroic and make 18 different, you know, or movements, because your body can't physiologically do that. Well, I'm out of shape. Can you make this small? Can you do a half pull up? Yes. Well, you can climb. And nobody pays attention. They'll make 10 moves, get too tired, have to come back down. I'm like, just make one move. And then once you've overcome that, you've beaten all the fears. If you can repel and climb and encounter fear, you'll defeat the other fears.
Now I want to do
You got him
it.
repelling
Yeah,
now.
No, it's
now I'm like,
you could die.
yeah,
The most dangerous thing you do on a daily basis is drive a car.
yeah,
Right.
It's got the biggest
yeah.
death rate of
I,
anything that we do. And eat sugar. That's the other thing. But
yeah,
Sure.
people aren't afraid to eat sugar.
right,
Doctors
right.
tell me not to eat sugar, but I do it anyway.
We've conquered that fear. We faced it and conquered
The fear of sugar.
the fear of sugar.
Are there times when I suppose to me the balance is when I listen to you is like I understand what you're saying about needing to conquer the fears and then how that can bleed into other fears and you can learn to conquer those fears as well. And at the same time, I guess the part of me that's coming up with excuses to not rappel down 100 feet is saying, but aren't some fears good to listen to?
I don't
I
know. I
imagine
don't know. I don't know. I don't know that. So people ask that in order to not encounter fear.
right.
I
No,
don't know.
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that it's more about calibrating risk. and you assume that fear is sometimes helping you do that, but I guess probably usually it's not. Probably usually the
Well,
fear
so
is
risk mitigation always has to be accounted for, but if you don't have the ability to overcome fear, your risk mitigation is a moot point.
right,
Like in I'm sure in any surgical procedure, there's risk mitigation.
right.
Uh, but if you don't know how to deal with fear, you won't be able to mitigate the risk when it comes up as if you lacerate an artery that wasn't a part of the procedure. If you're afraid to lose your job, you probably won't do the right thing there.
Hmm,
But so if you
right.
don't know how to deal with fear, the fact that you can risk mitigate means nothing. Because in the moment that fear happens, it didn't matter that you knew the process. You're now gripped with fear, which means you're not going to do anything about it. Like, do all your procedures work out
Of
that you
course.
do
This
that
is
we can
this
say
is
in public? They all work
this
out.
is a good person right now. So
Yeah.
100%.
They don't. Like the nurse
Right.
has a problem. The
Well,
business may be falling apart.
and the funny thing is I don't associate those things with fear, but I think a lot of that's because we've worked it so many times, and it's not something that evokes fear in us because we're so used to it and we've gotten past that. But
That's the key with fear. You've
that's the
done
key
it
with
so
fear.
many
Yes, yes,
times that
yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
Yeah.
pop up.
And it's also very, very interesting. There's one thing that you say that I reflected on specifically the things that we do on a daily basis. Let's say in medicine, procedure wise, you say work the problem. And it's so simple and yet so powerful because if you're working the problem, then you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking about the past. It is about being in the moment, and it's about thinking the very stepwise progression of what you need to do next, right? And it's at least I found it to be very, very powerful. And in reflection, found that in the things that I've done a number of times and feel comfortable, that is the natural next step,
Mhm.
right? In actually approaching it that way. But it is interesting that I find it in myself, and I find it in others, that someone who's really good at a particular task doesn't necessarily take the approach to that task and apply it to another task where
Hmm.
That's
It's kind of like
true.
yeah, like learning how to learn or learning how to
how to apply.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, we call that the old guard, the people that are really good at yesterday
Hmm.
Yes.
keep
Yeah.
repeating yesterday today, so they miss. So if you're not afraid and you're working problems, you're able to identify actual problems
Hmm.
that nobody has seen before. Like what's actually going on here?
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you're not afraid that it's to be found out, like you're the boss, it's me, I'm the problem. If you're looking at the problem, the boss is always 90% of the problem, but they never admit it because they're afraid to lose. You found out that they're not the smartest person in the room, as opposed to like the SEAL community will call somebody out when, hey, you're the problem, bro. Just stop. Or what's the actual problem here? Everybody's tired. Okay, let's not continue. Let's all take a break, as opposed to not recognizing the actual issue that's going on in the moment. Because we should be better than this. Oh my gosh, we made a mistake. What mistake? Like a guy named Jocko Willink, close friend of mine, SEAL, has a beautiful podcast. Uh, when faced with any reality, just say good.
Right.
Good. My wife's cheating on me. Good. Now we know what the problem is. Hey, boss, I didn't pump the air in the tires and we're all flat. Good. Now we know what the problem is. Who cares who's to blame? The problem is this. We'll deal with repercussions when everything slows down. All right. Hey, boss, I didn't bring the batteries. Good. Now we know we have to go find batteries.
Right.
That is the simple way of looking at problems that I've not seen anybody but SEALs do really well. Just go, wow, what's really going on here?
Mhm.
I'm I'm having a hard time with this. Good, you're having a hard time with this.
Do
Let's
you think
talk it out.
that the fact that the folks in the SEALs team are so good at that is that because the 89% have been weeded out and you kind of select, or is it
Mm.
a combination of
Yes.
that and the training? Is it, you know what I mean? Is
It's
it sort of
probably all
inborn?
that, but
Yeah.
so, a selection process is the only way to get to an elite status, where they have to prove through iterations of good and bad events that they're the person that you want in your unit. So the selection breeds out a lot of issues that you wouldn't you'll have if you
Mm,
don't have a selection. Hiring people and then training them prior to a selection is very costly.
Mhm.
It's extremely costly to do a selection. But then once they're there, they're an asset, so they're not an expense. So and then the training, the iterative training that like 270 days a year, you're training. Wow, I've done this 100 times, and which is the beautiful thing in the world. We only do basic stuff. There's only one way to shoot the gun. There's not a million ways. There's only one way to clear a room. There's not a million ways. So you keep thinking you're going to get an advanced thing. Like the older I got, is there anything advanced? They're like, no, it's all basic stuff. So you have to keep going back through the basic stuff, and you realize, boy, when you do that, you can solve anything.
yeah.
Like
Like
this
blue bucket.
highfalutin, the drones are out. Do we want drones? Because it's very complex to have drones. You know what I mean? It's a very complex endeavor.
Yeah.
Optics are complex. Anything that's battery driven and Bluetooth is complex because the moment you need it, it doesn't work. So if you have the basics all the time, you can always ask the question, what can we actually do here without all this complexity? Which is a phenomenon in business that everything's complex in business.
Sure. Sure.
Everything. Like, oh my gosh, what's the basic stuff here? If you can find the basics of your business, you'll beat everybody.
Yeah.
Not that it's a
But
competition, but
well, you're always trying to become the best version of
yeah, better. Yeah.
yourself, your business, etc. Yeah.
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 And you mentioned, so essentially what you're saying, or correct me if I'm wrong, that if you're facing the fear, you're able to see things in a different way and you're able to experience things in a different way. And you've named 5 fears. And that interestingly correlates to the 5 pyramids that you speak of.
Yes.
So so in other words, if you address all of those, your influence on life expands, right? Is it, can you speak to the 5 pyramid idea that
Yeah.
you
So
talk about in your books?
I may be wrong. I don't think that I am. I'm not trying to be right. 5 areas of everybody's life that is, everybody has these 5 areas in their life. Their body or their health is one area that I guarantee every human being has a physical body. Do you know what I mean? And to make that, it's, and to perform at any level, you have to engage the body relevant to simplicity. Everybody has a brain that's capable of learning. Even D students are very capable of learning. They probably talk themselves out of things. Uh, everybody is going to have to pursue what they value or do business. So call that wealth. Relationships are the fourth area of life. You can live in a cave, but you're still in a relationship with 4 billion people. You just decided to be isolated in your
Hmm.
relationship. And the fifth one is spirituality, which could be nebulous. It's not. So those 5 areas, every human being engages those 5 areas either well or not so well, but they're engaged in those 5 areas
Mm.
every day of their life.
When you say the spirituality could be nebulous, but it's not, what do you mean?
Well, there's dark and light. That's somewhat nebulous. There's God, devil. There's various religions that have spiritual inclination. There's the earth religion. There's astrology. So
In some way, you're
it,
going to be
yeah, it
interacting
goes
with.
off the rail, but there maybe the distinction of spirituality is that everything is intricately connected
Mm,
at levels that, you know, doctors are just beginning to realize. There's a
yeah.
connection between that fucking cell and that. Oh my gosh, I
Right.
didn't recognize that. So those multi-billion connections that are,
Mm.
available to human beings, we probably turn on 2 of them, but there's billions of connections. And we're made of the same stuff the earth is. That like, maybe that's sensical or not. And
Yeah.
so everything is maybe I don't like necessarily the divine interconnectivity, but everything's interconnected and affects everything else. Uh, so maybe the distinction matters, but if you could have a great life if you just pursued those 5 fears. Everything that you're afraid of doing, just go engage it. Learn what it takes to people are afraid of public speaking, and it
Mm.
prevents them from a great many things. I'm afraid that, I want to save money, I don't want to lose money. Therefore, your ability to grow a business is not possible. Like if you're afraid to lose, you'll never ever ever grow. I'm afraid if I run that's going to hurt. Doctors told me my knee is bad, I'll never run again. Therefore I stop because I'm afraid. Therefore you'll stay where you are for the rest of your life. So fear prevents forward motion in all those areas. If you take it out, watch what happens. If you're not afraid, you're a different human being. You
Have you
probably
seen?
do stupid shit as well. Having seen SEALs, they do like, hey, I leadership in the teams is called reining people in because if you don't, they go crazy. Encouraging people never happens in the teams. I don't have to encourage you. I just got to rein you in. I don't think we want to blow up the whole town, bro. Come on, step it back a little bit.
Good example. Yeah.
I've told
But
him
yeah,
that so many times. There's
yep.
nothing to blow that up.
With it's really interesting that spirituality comes up in so many conversations with people that have been in combat.
Hmm.
Is there a specific reason for that? I mean, there are so many things that we can imagine, those of us that have not been in combat. But from your perspective, why is that?
Oh wow! Without so, it's not a belief system that is important. Like whether you believe in that Muhammad was a prophet or Jesus was a prophet or that there's God or daisies have are the divine being. That's it's not the system that is important. It's when you're performing at a high level, having had so when you get to chapter 9, probably I should have coined that chapter divine intervention. So you think you're all great at everything. And then when you're performing at a high level and then everything falls apart and things that should have happened don't. Uh, Guys that have had like I have several Medal of Honor winner friends that they're like, it wasn't me.
Mm.
Everything I should be dead. And something like a divine hand guided things around me. Like I was shot twice in the plate, had 2 bullet holes through my crotch, my pants, and there ain't no room. I'm like, I don't know how that happened. They shot in the back and had to call a bomb on my position because we were getting overrun with the intent that it would kill us, and it didn't. So something unique happens that you can't explain when you have tapped yourself. And everybody that's been in a tapped environment where there's I have nothing left, everybody's like, wow, okay, now I understand it at a level that I didn't get while going to church.
Hmm.
And whether you have read the Bible or not, guys that in combat go, okay, I get it now. It's not just me. There's other factors at play. I don't know if I say that well, but I'm not trying to say it correctly. It just there's divine
Yeah.
intervention only at the point where you've done all that you can.
No,
And
that's
That's deep.
very profound, and certainly it seems that that comes across in many different religions or non-religious people, and certainly my grandfather went through World War II, and someone who is not religious at all, he would would have little to say about the specifics. He would not be able to describe it, and he would say himself that I can't explain it.
Yep.
Certain situations where he went and decided that no, we're not going to set up camp here, and went
Yep.
out, and then somebody else got caught in that because it was an ambush. And he said,
Yep.
I don't know. I just felt it, and there was something that was guiding me. And so it comes across, not like you said, not non-denominational.
Yeah, there's this
Yep.
element when you guys are talking about that that makes me think of psychedelics, in the sense of people talking about having a sense of oneness
Yeah.
with
Yep.
everything, right? And that's kind of that thread that comes through everything.
Yeah. The you can't explain the intimacy of a great relationship. Like, you can't write it down linearly. There's just something there that is a connecting point. Oh man, I can't explain it. It's not lust. It's not her body. It could be that, but gosh, there's 1,000 bodies out there. But
Yeah,
there's just an interconnection there that people go like, I don't know, I don't get it. And you're right. The hair on the back of your neck when it stands up is what I call divine intervention.
yeah.
Most people aren't privy to it. They just stop paying attention to it.
Hmm.
And when you see it and experience it in combat, when somebody is connected, I've had a guy that wasn't in charge go, "Hey, boss, let's not do that." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Dude, I can't explain it." I'm like, "Okay, we're not going to do that." And he did it like 4 times. I'm like, "Damn it, I don't want to walk another mile." And so I got my EOD warrant officer to come out and wand this area. We're in the middle of desert. There shouldn't have been a landmine there. And the guy's like, "Let's not go down that area." Dude, there's never been another human here. He goes, "Let's not do it." So EOD pulls out a wand. He goes, "Yeah, that's a tank bomb. Like 3 of us would have died right there." I'm like, "Okay, whatever you feel, bro. I get it. Don't have to explain it to me. As long as it's not,
Oh,
let's do stupid shit." But
right.
Right.
That's wild.
Uh, you talk about reining people in. I'm sorry to keep switching back and forth. There are
sure.
so many interesting concepts that you bring up. Like reining people in. You mentioned in the book someone who, after surviving so many battles, and I believe you refer to him as Nike, right?
Mhm.
And who ends up who ends up dying in a car accident. And like you said, one of the more dangerous things that we do. And um, is it that there is that somebody who's not no longer reined in? Is there an adrenaline rush that people that are leaving the teams that are still running after and get themselves into trouble? And
Guy, that's actually 2 conversations. One is, when you are in respon I don't say leading, responsible to outcome at a leadership level. Uh, I don't call that leading. It's my sole responsibility that this thing succeeds. Uh, when you have people that are better than you at everything, that you're leading people that are demonstrably better than you. To be 40 years old in the SEAL teams is very rare because it's a physical game. And at 40, you're like, "Oh, dude, it takes me 8 hours to recover from this. You guys can drink and do everything." Uh, when everybody's better than you, you have reins on them. It's not that they want more; they're prepared to go further than what we normal humans think. So you got to rein them in so that it keeps them in check, and they're always going to not be in check until you rein them in. So you should hear in the SEAL teams, no is a big conversation. Encouragement is not a big conversation in the SEAL teams. Uh, you don't have to encourage them. They're, "I'll go by myself. I'm going to die, but I'm going to go by myself." Okay, so I have to rein you in. Make sure there's 8 of us who go. Don't go running after people. Let's let the jets kill them. Uh, that reining in phenomenon is only unique to an environment where everybody's uh, very professional, and there's not a lot of that in the world. Just because not every environment needs everybody to be at their utmost. Uh, without that there, without a high level of professionalism that I bring, so everybody in the SEAL teams brings a high level of professionalism every day. Like I'm trying to get better every day. And I know that you're going to take care of me. You're not going to let me go too far. You're going to pull me back from it. Uh, so that is inherent to the SEAL teams. Most special operations have that. Uh, Without that, you get having to encourage people. Hey, you can do better. Hey, Jenny, you try a little harder. Oh my gosh, I know that you were late today. I know you're having problems, but gosh, don't yell at me. In the SEAL teams, people yell at you. They yell no all the time. Hey, stop. Oh my God, guys, come on. Let's not do that again. The, hey, watch this scenario. Anytime somebody says, hey, watch this, it's a no. Let's not do it, you know? And I've not seen it in business very often. I wish that people would I don't need a boss.
Yeah.
If I'm professional, I don't need you to lead me. I just need you to rein me in. And when you're encouraging somebody, you're acknowledging that they're not up to speed. And that's a horrible condition to always have to be the encourager because you hired the wrong people. That's
Yeah.
really the business model of probably every business. Be encouraging. Oh, it's draining to be the encourager, the
Right.
cheerleader. The cheerleader on the football field doesn't score.
Right.
The guys on the field don't even know that there's cheerleaders. The crowd who's not committed has to have a cheerleader. It's a weird phenomenon. And
Is there a way around
that's
it?
what I've been trying to convey in business is have it be hard to work for your company and have a selection process and then rein people in. If you're having to encourage people, it's a terrible condition for leaders to always be encouraging.
Have you found a selection process that works to get such a high functioning team?
Some businesses and industries inherently are great places for it. Uh, and other ones you don't need it. And it would probably be a detriment to have a bunch of alphas working at Amazon. You know what I mean? That, hey, you need to sleep, bro. So that
Right.
they give people an 8-hour, like you only have to work 8 hours in a day. I don't know what 8 hours is. The mission requires us to be awake for 48 hours. What's an 8-hour day? I don't care about an 8-hour day.
Yeah.
It's because they're going to be discouraged
I
and
think Bezos would love you to be there actually.
Mhm.
Like perfect. I think Jeff Bezos would love that from his workers at Amazon.
Yeah, but the alpha phenomenon, not all businesses will function
Yeah.
well with a group
Yeah.
of pack animals.
Right. Do you find that entrepreneurs in general are better at being able to keep their word to themselves and to others
Yes,
and
they
to be
have to.
more self
Entrepreneurship is you want to quit every other day, maybe every
right.
day. Like this is stupid decision I've ever made. I don't want to I don't want to do it again today. It's not working. My wife, gosh, we're on the brink of a divorce because I'm never there or things are falling apart. And, uh, I think parenting is greatest place to notice these weird excuses that come up. It's very entrepreneurial, and you have to be an alpha as a parent. You can't be sheepish and raise great kids. You cannot. And even though that a little offbeat of what you said, but
No, 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 that's a
yeah,
great I mean, it's a great point. And it is so true with I think as someone who is, probably not the most alpha inherently, but when you have kids, it sort of pushes you into that role constantly, right? Like
and
I think some
they
of us
kids are designed to beat you down. That's their
right,
job.
right. Well,
Question
yeah,
everything.
and
Yeah.
you're not doing your job if you're not sometimes out. Like sometimes you
Oh
have to
yeah.
do that, or else you're abdicating that
Yeah.
responsibility.
If
So
they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing, I'm gonna go check your room. There's something hidden in it, you know. But yeah, I
right.
have 3 kids, and my daughter, who did exceptionally well, she was two-time All-State lacrosse player in South Carolina and went to West Point and graduated 11 out of, like, 1,200 cadets, and She's now an Apache
Wow.
pilot. She doesn't need encouragement. She needs to be reined in because she'll go way too far on her own. Very competitive, like rein you in.
Yeah.
Middle boy needs encouragement, and it's exhausting. Now he's at the point where he doesn't need it. And I think it's true that boys evolve slower,
100%.
and physically they
Anyone.
evolve very quickly. But
Yeah.
and my
Yeah.
last son got to see two kids grow up in front of him. He's on the brink of both of them. He needs encouragement to do things he doesn't like, and he needs to be reined in when he likes something. I'm like, oh my gosh, Chance,
Yeah.
no.
Do people ever switch that kind of personality, do you think? Like, I think in the book you talk about sheep and sheepdogs and
Yeah.
wolves and omega. Like, do those personality types ever do people ever evolve out of one into another? Can they
Yes.
evolve?
That has been the maybe 10 years into this curriculum, the biggest evolution of the curriculum are the 6 archetypes of human beings. We have all 6 in us. We don't have 2 types like the wolf that you have to feed, whatever that old scenario was. There's the alpha, the beta, and the omega, which are they're the wolf section of these 6 archetypes. And then there's the shepherd, sheepdog, sheep. Uh, and they're very distinct, very recognizable. And when you go through the curriculum, you're like, oh my gosh, 80% of the people I meet are sheep. Don't be a wolf around sheep. So you can't function as an alpha around sheep. Hierarchy in an organization is built off of a herd where there's the shepherd and they hire sheepdogs to run their organizations, and the sheepdogs manage sheep. That's the Amazon model.
Mhm.
Big hierarchies have to have cannon fodder at the bottom that just come and go. You're hired to
Yeah.
do a specific thing. Don't go outside the bounds. Sheep complain about the way things are and don't like change. So that's the sheep brain. Sheep dogs are very demonstrative and they burn themselves out. Like COOs are sheepdogs. And in
Hmm.
about 3 years, they're burned out because they have an 18-hour day. And shepherds at the top, they don't look like sheep and they don't look like sheepdogs. They're kingdom builders. So that's the herd mentality. The alpha mentality is I have to be good at these 5 areas of my life because I have a limited time in which I can lead this pack. My job as a pack leader is to teach everything to the pack that I have because I know like a wolf only gets about 6 years as an alpha because they get too old. There has to be somebody demonstrative in a pack to make choices. And this weird phenomenon of these 6 traits, when I teach leaders this, they're like, oh, damn, I wanted to be an alpha, but I hired sheep. That's why your company is where it is. It's stuck where it is because you're demonstrating the wrong characteristic.
Hmm.
So you cannot be a sheepdog all your child's lives. So you have to be a sheepdog until they're through puberty. But if you're still barking orders after puberty, you'll destroy your kids. You
What
gotta
if you have
look.
girls?
Say again?
What if you have daughters? No,
Well, yeah, kids.
But,
So
yeah, yeah,
if
no,
you're
okay.
barking
Yeah.
orders, you're teaching them to be sheep.
Right.
Do what you're told, dumb down your intelligence. So then you move into this pack scenario of I want my daughter to be better than me. So here's what I learned. Then they have to go out and prove to you that they have capacity and capability and they're growing and they're falling apart. In the herd, that's not a consideration. And you don't the funny phenomenon about alpha is there has to be 2 alphas. If you're an alpha male, you have to have an alpha female. You could probably have a beta for a while, but couples that are alphas do really well together. Uh, if an alpha male meet or marries a shepherd, they will kill themselves. They'll destroy their
Hmm.
relationship because one wants to build an empire, the other wants to build a family. And that's a weird phenomenon. So I call it wearing 6 hats. If I'm with
Mhm.
alphas, I'll wear an alpha hat. If I'm with sheep, I could be a sheepdog, or I could be a shepherd, or I could be a sheep. And that weird phenomenon takes people about maybe 14 days of going through that experience of evaluating everybody in their
Right.
surroundings. They're like, man, I'm
I
surrounded
would
by
think that
sheep.
you would like, I
Yeah.
would think you would have a hard time being the sheep. Like, it just if you were put in that role where you said, "The best thing that I can
Well,
do
it's
here is."
chaotic. So if I like the alpha thing, not because I want to be the better, I want to be great in 5 areas. Like I want to keep growing in those 5 areas.
Right.
If you go to a movie theater and you're an alpha, it's
Mm,
disturbing. Like
right,
people are stupid. Oh my God, what are you doing? Turn your phone off. So
right,
like the
right,
alpha is like, I want to
right,
be
that's
attentive to this,
yeah,
and everybody's doing sheepish shit. You're like, oh my gosh. So Stacy's like, all right, here we're gonna go to a movie theater, or we're gonna go to a concert. You don't have to be aware of everything. You don't have to be on guard all the time. Nobody's trying to kill you every day the rest of your life. And so that the ability to switch hats is a skill. I'm not great at it, but I know if I act like a sheep, nobody's going to threaten me if
yeah,
you're surrounded by sheep. And then if something
nice.
threatening, I can put on the alpha hat very quickly and deal with it and take it off. And but
That's a great thing to be aware
it's a
of because
practice.
then you
Yeah,
you can more consciously also evoke those different personalities.
yeah.
I mean, yeah,
And
that's
like
really
even with Stacy and I, all our arguments because of we're not we're conflicting traits. Not all the time, but if she's acting sheepish and I'm, acting alpha, there's always conflict. And maybe
hmm,
I have to say, Stacy, maybe it's time to come over to this side of the fence. She goes, well, I'm tired. Hey, I don't want octopus gropage right now. Okay, let's do something else. I can keep doing that, but it creates conflict. Ah,
Mhm.
okay, maybe let's just sit here and complain about everything.
right.
I'm like, okay, I can complain better than you. So, and
It's
then there's no
such the
conflict.
alpha in you
And,
saying that,
yeah.
that I can do it better than you.
I'm better at you complaining.
I
I could be a
completely, yeah,
sheep. I
that's
could be
yeah,
the
the alpha
best sheep in
sleeping
the
in
world.
is I'm a better sheep.
Yep.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's great. Um, can I jump into my water question?
Do it.
I wanted to ask you, this is sorry to change. I
Yep.
see that we've been keeping you for a long time, so I think we probably need to keep an eye on that. But I really wanted to ask you about the three things that we're supposed to do, because there's one thing that I haven't been doing for the week, and um so tell me if I was hoping to get a dispensation since it's your three things. Maybe you can let me off the hook, but probably not.
Hmm.
The water. I didn't the 10 glasses of water during the day.
I was
How is that?
so yeah, I was wrong about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
woo,
Wow.
whoa.
Yeah.
I guilted him into doing the water, and then I was like, I don't want to spend the time in the bathroom. I'm making a
Yeah.
conscious. I just
So,
so
the 5 areas, the 3 simple things in the 5 areas. So in the book, I may not have articulated that way. In the second book, I tried to correct it. Uh, in the 3 simple things book, I tried to correct it. And that was actually, uh, maybe an imperfection or a mistake. So now in getting kind of better advice and counseling on what is actually effective to do at the simplistic level in each of the 5 areas. Uh, and you're probably going to not like this in the physical area. So you have to work out every day, but it's 6 days a week, not 7. You have to take a break. So
oh,
so
that's interesting.
these 3 simple things, work out, s- have mobility. Like there's 3 primary stretches that you should be able to do. One's brachiation or hang. You should be able to hang for a minute. If you can't, keep working up towards a minute. A hamstring stretch. So if you can't, work towards a minute, keep working towards it. And the other one is a full squat, like we call it a rice paddy squat. The ability to squat straight down and balance yourself. Your heels, if they're off the ground, keep stretching until they're on the ground. and your back is tight. So those 3 primary stretches, if you're capable of doing those, physiologically, you're a different human being. If those areas are tight, they affect a great many things. The ability to work out is a profound thing physically. Those 3 stretches, and the current 3rd thing in health is try to get into ketosis. Your
Hmm.
best There's multiple ways to get into it. So, meat, fats, 6 glasses of water, and no sugar. If you can cross that boundary, it's a different physical human being that comes out of those if they do those every day for 21 days. But I'd say take 1 day off where you don't have to account for it. You can
Yeah.
fuck it up 1 day. Like, the
And then
break is legit.
do you suggest staying in ketosis? Like, is that just a life choice? Is
I
that what
don't
you?
know. So, I think if you do one thing, there's always a detriment. I
Yeah.
don't know if ketosis is good as a life choice through the rest of your
Mhm.
life.
But just as a
The
3 week.
ability to metabolize fat, whoa, that's a big deal. I think humans should be metabolizing fat, not working on carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And
Which of
sugar
those things?
is
Yeah,
yeah.
which of those things did you think we'd have most trouble with? Which have you gotten pushback from doctors? Just curious.
From doctors.
Uh, yeah, the ketosis question. I don't know if
Okay.
I'm an expert in it. I just know fat metabolism is real. Boy, it's a big deal. And
Yeah. Well, especially if you're
if
addicted
you
to
kill sugar
carbohydrates.
from your mouth and your diet, you do it's a big deal. And
Yeah.
it's simple to
Yeah.
get rid of sugar, but excuses are real. Trying to get rid of sugar,
Oh
"Oh,
yeah.
man, I feel tired." Fuck. You made a promise
Right.
not to have sugar for 3 weeks, bro. Can you
Yeah.
keep that promise?
Yeah.
"Ah, I feel tired." Okay.
Yeah.
But at the 8-day mark off sugar, like day 7 plus 1 minute, you're in ketosis. It's pretty much a guarantee if you haven't had carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And the abundance of energy that you get is big deal. And that, like I tell all my clients, you wanna have a big impact on the rest of your life, get off sugar.
Yeah.
You'll be a better leader. You may have diseases, but they won't be as prevalent as what you have right now.
There's no way that we can disagree with that in any form. The doctor and us probably wants to say, if someone has any medical issues, probably check with your doctor
Yeah,
before
yeah,
attempting something drastic. But
yeah,
there's a lot of research to support ketosis or fasting and
Yeah.
ways of getting into ketosis. And certainly not the stretches, not the exercising. You're certainly not going to get any pushback from
yeah,
us because that that's just good advice for physical mobility and ability. And getting getting older is something that we're all facing, and mobility and strength and just the developed world lifestyle leads
yep.
to.
And, boy, nobody does those. So nobody
True, true.
I don't know what would change for doctors if everybody you don't have to do a hard workout.
Yeah.
Literally move every muscle and joint, keep pressure on it for about an hour, even if it's I can't do a full push-up. Gosh, push up against the wall, do something,
Right.
Right.
uh, and
I,
try to be limber.
yeah.
And
I tell people all the time that you get most of your exercise benefit going from 0 to 30%, right? So if you don't do anything and you
yeah,
start doing something, that's a huge difference.
yeah,
Whereas, it's always.
the baseline. If you have
Yeah.
a baseline that you're operating from as opposed to, "Man, I don't really wanna run a marathon." Oh my god, I didn't say run a marathon.
Right.
Can you just move every day? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you do at work. That's not a workout. Can I have a
Right.
concise period of time where I'm dedicated to dealing with my muscular structure and my cardio and my tendon strength, and I'm looking at it wholesale for that hour. And then throughout the day, man, I didn't think sugar was such a big deal because when you're a SEAL, you could eat diarrhea. It doesn't matter. Like you're probably metabolizing fat
Kids
really
don't do
well
that.
as a SEAL,
Yeah.
and because you're just working out all the time.
Right.
Right.
And then when that ends, it's catastrophic. So guys go from operational capacity, and then they still eat as poorly as they did, and they drink, and now the stress is up without the ability to work through stress physiologically,
Yeah.
and then they fall off the rail. And so just get back to the simplicity of life, and it's a big change.
Yeah, it's funny because I think in the public imagination, certainly in mine, when I think of like a Navy SEAL post operational, I think of like David Goggins or someone, and but of course, that's probably there's a lot of people that just don't keep up that
Yeah.
crazy exercise
Well,
routine.
the phenomenon of retirement is, you go from, like, having climbed Everest to, "Man, I don't wanna fucking do this anymore. I don't wanna be on point every day,"
Right.
but you don't recognize that your body was set up really well. So it was very healthy. You were very you're able to communicate anything to your brothers, like, everything's very relational. Nothing's kept off the table, and then you leave that, "Nobody understands me. I'm tired all the time. This hurts. Man, I can't stretch anymore," because there's no demand on you. I think everybody has that, not only SEALs, but when people transition through different phases in life, they forget the basic, simple things, and then it gets out of control,
Yeah,
which is the hell
100%.
that everybody's in.
Yeah.
Really good point.
Yeah.
You
Well,
want
this definitely covered the
to go on?
roadmap. We've gone sea to shining sea on this one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, so I mean, honestly, I could, I,
We can talk for,
yeah,
yes.
so it's you're just one insight after the other. It's really,
And just your stories
yeah.
from adventure racing to,
I have to tell you, the adventure racing story in Unbreakable, I laughed out loud. I read the part where I don't think I'm giving away too much from people that don't read the book, where when you're doing the adventure racing and a teammate of yours threatens the life of the French team.
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah.
laughed so hard.
Yep.
That was the funniest. I mean, it's just such a
with,
dramatic
In
and
the reality of the moment, we are so tired and over it. We're only
yeah,
12 miles from the end. Probably, I think it was a 380-mile race. You couldn't see the end. We're like, "Man," and then the race gets delayed. It's
right.
nighttime. People are scared. And then somebody confronts a Navy SEAL with, "You guys are fat. Oh my God, dude, I'm just gonna kill you." Like, it made sense because that's what you'd say to another SEAL, but they took it as reality. And for a
Yeah,
moment, we're like, "Let's just catch him." And
yeah.
it's like 4 guys without anybody reining them in was a bad scenario. Had we caught him, I don't know what would have happened. But they
And then
probably
later you
st
said we might have said we were going to eat them.
yeah, it would have been yuck. But, yeah, adventure racing probably taught me more about the responsibility of leadership than I'd learned in SEAL teams. Because when
You know
people are
that,
down, you can't force them to do anything.
yeah.
And like, okay, I didn't learn how to have, I call it tactical patience. When things aren't working, don't hammer anymore. Like, doesn't
Mhm.
make sense as SEAL is just about hammering. Like, if you can use a hammer, bring a sledgehammer. Let's just hammer more, do more. And in adventure racing, you get to the point where you can't do more. It just made no sense to me to stop. Let's just keep pushing it.
Right.
Gosh, we're 12 hours behind the lead team. Then I got to recognize the lead teams take a lot of breaks, but they'll go from exercising really hard to, like, hey, at the top of the hill, we're going to get off the bikes and we're going to lay down for 10 minutes. Nobody talk, everybody take a break, and they practice that. But we were just pushing through everything. Your
Mm,
body physiologically, mentally can't recover. And I recognized the top people were taking breaks. So when I went back to the SEAL teams, I'm like, we're going to break. If we're not at full capacity, let's just sit here and take a break. And the cadre are like, what are you guys taking a break for? Because we're about ready to hit the target. I'm letting the guys recover. And they took that as these guys are lazy. But we hit the target better than anybody else. I'm like, I learned my lesson finally, learned something, was able to translate it.
hmm,
that's
The
awesome. That's
the
probably
Go ahead.
translates into a lot of life. Right. That sometimes you need to take a beat.
I think all humans are the same. I don't see a big difference in all human beings, except a lot of people have not allowed themselves to recognize how freaking awesome they are by doing difficult things. But so the one thing I didn't know that would happen in retirement and in training leaders, easy to get people in shape. I knew that that would make a profound difference to people. Uh, it's easy to help business. Business is about simple stuff. If you don't do the simple stuff, the complex stuff gets out of control. How to hire people, it's not complicated. Business makes it complicated. So the fourth part of the training was how to have a profound relationship at home. I didn't think that would be the
Oh, right.
biggest part of
Yeah.
my training.
That was surprising when you talked about in the book
Like
that that was
I was like, I can't believe I'm a relational coach. Oh my
right.
gosh. All these guys had the problem with being successful businessman. Most of my clients were men for a while, is you lose aspect of what's going on at home. And so the three simple things in relationship, God, they're simple.
Yeah.
Nobody does it. Listen to your spouse without judgment. That's very difficult to do. Every time you're judging them, you're making them stuck. So you stick your relationship. It doesn't evolve. And then don't speak drama to your spouse. Oh my gosh, everybody's drama. Drama is uncommitted conversation. Why say anything to your spouse that you're not committed to? And then have intimacy every day. And whatever the hell that means to people. 2 years ago, I trained a client or a couple, and to them, intimacy meant sex. So 3 months into the training, the woman calls me and she goes, "Oh, great news. We're pregnant." I'm like, "Why'd you do that?" She goes, "Well, you said have intimacy every day." My God, for 3 months, you guys were having sex. I'm like, "Oh my God." The guy's like, "Man, I can't keep doing this." I'm like, "Oh my God, now I see why." But those three things, when businessmen and women have a profound relationship at home, their business catapults. They're just by osmosis. If the boss has a profound relationship at home, the business is better.
That's
And
striking because
I didn't, I had no idea about it.
I wonder if that's also true in things like sports and stuff. I wonder if you looked at top athletes, if you would find similar.
100%. It's a guarantee. So the Mike Tyson phenomenon and the Tiger Woods phenomenon,
Hmm.
Mhm.
while their relationship was profound, they are at the top of their game. The day after it falls apart, their game fell apart.
Yeah.
So with Mike Tyson, when whoever he was dating,
Robert and someone. Yeah.
Robin Givens, yep,
Tom Gibbons.
went
Yeah.
off the rail, his fighting immediately changed. And when Tiger Woods had all that crap happen with his
Yeah.
relationship, his game changed the next day.
Mhm.
And in the
So,
SEAL
yeah.
team, the only reason I put that into the training is in the SEAL teams, if you're having something, if you're on deployment and you're having issues at home, you're sent home.
Hmm.
Because
Mhm.
if you're thinking about your wife cheating on you or if she's sick, you're going to get everybody killed because you're not present in the moment that we need you to be present because you're worried about something that's profound, but you're not
Yeah.
here in this moment. So I put that into the training because another platoon that was with us in Afghanistan, one of the guys, his wife or girlfriend was cheating on him. And we're like, "Dude, why are you such a bag of shit? What's going on?" He goes, "God, my girlfriend's cheating on me." "Dude, you're out. See you." He goes, "No,
Hmm.
dude, this is the greatest deployment in the world." I get it. You're probably going to hate me for the rest of my life. Uh, but I don't want to die. So you're going to be sent home. And we got him out of there very quickly. And he hates me to this day because he worked so hard to get on that deployment. I'm like,
Oh,
"Man, nobody died, bro. It
yeah.
may have been because you left. It may have been other reasons, but
Right.
you didn't die either." So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's a big deal. Like if you get divorced in the teams, you're pulled off status for 6 months
And there, I
because
think
you're,
you mentioned there's a high divorce rate in the team,
yeah,
right?
terrible high. It's probably 80%. It's not that high now, but it was 80% while I
Wow.
was in.
Wow.
Because you
Yeah.
leave your wife.
Right. It's
You're there for 3 months out of the year. it's a great, it's like vacation sex all the time. You're home, it's cool, do my laundry, you play like it's a vacation, then you leave, and then, it's very hard to live in that
Right,
environment for anybody.
right. Exciting in the beginning, and then you have real responsibilities with, kids
Yeah.
and stuff also come into it. Yeah,
But
it's hard.
usually the second divorce works or second marriage works because they're upfront with like when I married Stacy, I'm like, here's the deal. Here's what I do.
Yeah.
If you're willing to take that on, and she goes, boy, I like what you do. I'm never going to discourage you. And I want to hear all the stories. Like, don't sugarcoat anything. And when I went to Afghanistan, she's like, man, I come home with your shield or carrying it, or on your shield or carrying it. Go for it. And she wanted to hear everything that was going on. In hindsight, she goes, it was killing me to hear every mission because I think you're going to die every day. But she never mentioned it to me.
Mm,
And she was, even though it's the word encouraging, she was very encouraging. Like,
yeah.
get to it. Don't worry about us. We're doing well. And the only thing, the one I had a Zoom call with my daughter, and she was crying it was like a month into the deployment, and she was crying because I looked horrible. And I told Stacy, I said, I can't be on the phone with her anymore. Not
Mm,
that I don't love her, but I don't
right.
want to be here now. Like for 10 minutes after that call, I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. I want to go home. She's
Yeah.
like, Dad, I miss you and you're never going to come back. I'm like, oh my God,
Mm,
from the mouth of babes, darn near destroyed the whole thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
And she
Well,
wasn't supposed to have the prowess to understand what was going on.
right. It must be rare to find a wife that's so supportive with, I mean, I would imagine, right? It's like a true partnership, right? Is what you're describing, which is
Well,
beautiful.
she had been married before. She knew what she didn't want. I knew what I didn't want. And our ability to communicate relatively clearly was what I didn't do to the first wife is everything's gonna be great. Oh my God, it's gonna be roses, it's gonna be exciting. And then we got married and then I was gone. And she's like, wow, the excitement's gone.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
Stacy knew what she was getting into.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
And you mentioned emotion and the fact that
Mm.
emotion is good, that emotion gives you something, and that I guess maybe that's counterintuitive. It shouldn't be, but it's counterintuitive because you think of a warrior as someone who's stoic, right? And
Boy, so that part of training is the most difficult to put people through and for people to go practice. So emotions are responses to problems that we face. Therefore, we're emotionally responding on a daily basis to a million problems. Uh, s- it would occur to everybody that SEALs have no emotion. We're very emotional. Like a SEAL will cry in a movie because we can tap into it and turn it off and on very quickly. The ability to recognize that I'm being emotional and then turn it on and turn it off is a practice skill. Uh, if you are emotional but out of control, you're a detriment to everybody. And then letting people practice, like there's 15 emotions, I make them practice. They're like, oh my God, yep, you thought that was important, but try to be happy every day. Guess what will happen? You won't do anything. Happiness causes you to not do anything.
right.
It's I like what I'm doing. I'm happy with what I'm doing. Therefore, you will never do anything. Uh, Responding with sadness is medically catastrophic to human beings. Sadness causes disease, literally will cause disease. And I had a doctor talk me through what happens in sadness and depression. Is it terrible on a cellular level, a
Mhm.
hormonal level?
Yeah.
And women are inherently sad. I didn't know
Mm,
that until I put like 300 women through training. Their response is sadness.
huh. I
And
wouldn't
I'm
have
like,
guessed
wow, I
that.
didn't know that. It's
Uh,
crazy. And frustration is a terrible emotion to have, but every business owner is frustrated. I'm like, well, what would be if you didn't act frustrated? What would happen? Good. This is the problem.
mm,
Business is fucked up and we need to fire 20 people. Good. We need to fire 20 people. yeah, but he's my cousin's nephew and but he never does what he's supposed to do. Oh God, it's so frustrating and it's draining. It emotionally, it to create outcome, you cannot have emotional responses, or pick one that works.
Hmm.
So do you make people get in touch with those emotions so that they
Yeah,
recognize when they're going through it?
yeah, in front of me, which is the hard part.
That's fun.
How do you evoke those emotions?
Huh?
How do you get them to display those or to feel those
It would
emotions?
be a long conversation. Uh, so what happens when, are you married? Either of
Yeah.
you? So,
Yes, yes, yeah, no.
so what's your response to your wife? Uh, what would be your response to your wife if she cheated on you? That's a problem, by the way.
That's
What
a
would be your
problem.
response? What would be your response, emotional response, if you found out your wife was cheating?
Yeah.
This is now worth $10,000.
I would be, very upset, angry,
Upset,
disappointed,
angry,
sad, violent.
sad. So anger causes the human being to take action, then leads to rage, which is uncontrolled action, then destruction of the thing that you're angry at. Don't know if that emotional response would create any solution viable to a cheating spouse. But people react with anger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What if you react with sadness? Sadness leads to depression, which leads to isolation, and then ultimately death. The longer you're sad, the more you can guarantee disease and death is going to happen. But people can be sad for a long period of time. So, would sadness be the correct emotional response to solving cheating? No.
You would not. Yeah.
But so you put them on the table, I would say, good, show me sadness. Well, show
Yeah,
me
that'd be
what
awesome.
makes you sad. So keep showing me,
Yeah.
keep showing me. And then everything that's centered around sadness will come out of there.
Hmm.
Show me anger. Well, not a lot of people really have anger. They say they do, but they
Is that
don't.
right? I'm surprised at that
Yeah,
actually.
very few people have anger. They would have already been violent. Anger leads to
Mm,
violence very quickly. And
mm,
most men say that they're angry, but they're more frustrated.
mm.
So frustration and happiness are both are the opposite sides of the same coin. Happiness is I like what's happening. Frustration, so happiness is I like what's happening
Mm.
and I want it to happen again. Frustration is I don't like what's happening and it happens again.
Hmm.
So when you are frustrated, you're committed to the thing that you're frustrated with happening again and again and again. So if you're frustrated with your wife cheating, guess what your commitment is? That she cheats,
Mm.
because you can't solve anything when you're emotional. It can't, because the emotion is causing something to happen. And so I keep showing me what's frustrating. And
Yeah.
as you would talk that through, you'd be like, it would be easier not to be frustrated, which is the
Yeah.
part of the training called letting go of emotion. Like if you let go of being right, you'll solve any problem in front of you. And
Mm.
emotional conviction is I have to be right about my response.
And so you want to be able to identify the emotion inside of you so that you can consciously
Yeah.
put it to the side or
And that's
select
very
one that's
hard for
more.
people to do.
Yeah.
Good. You want to
Yeah.
be emotional? Be sad. Let's see it. Let's pull it out. Pull it out of the
Right.
bag. We'll close the doors and let's pull all the sadness out so that you can not be sad. Because and
Hmm.
Yeah.
women get to it very quickly. Men cover it up for a long time. It's about a 4-hour process. I
Oh,
didn't want
wow.
it to be, and it's draining. I come back home and Stacy's like, "Oh my God, yeah, I know, sorry," and
Oh,
I
wow.
absorb a lot of it as well. But at
Yeah.
the end of that, you can let go of any emotional response
Yeah. You
because
must see some
if you're not right, there's a solution. If you're right, you'll be right, and there won't be a solution.
Hmm.
yeah.
That's the the human characteristic of if you're not right, you will win. If you're right, you may win, but you may lose. Like in
Hmm.
combat, I don't have to be right. Hey guys, what do you want to do? Let's go over there. Okay. I'm not convicted that we do it my way,
Yeah.
because once you're on the ground, everything changes anyway. I could be pissed off at you that you're not listening, but that's an emotional response.
Yeah.
And that's so you get taught to not deal with people emotionally in the SEAL team. And even Stacy's like, "Man, why are you so cold?" I'm like, I'm not cold. I want to cut his head off, but I don't think it's the right thing to do right now."
Hmm.
Yeah. That's great. Those are good things to work on
Yeah. Yeah.
for all of us. Yeah.
So
Wow.
have you read
Thank
Three
you.
Simple Things?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. 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 Absolutely. No, it was great. It was so. No, I mean, I really, I guess it was more fun for me reading Unbreakable, but Three Simple Things I took a lot of. It was very.
Everybody says that. Oh my God. It was more fun to write Unbreakable than it was Three Simple Things. So Three
Yeah.
Simple Things
Yeah.
came out of six of us SEALs got together, uh, kind of a roundtable discussion, and not to repeat everything that was discussed, but the question was what would happen, because a lot of guys in the teams are committing suicide, which I didn't
Mm.
know about because I moved on, man. And then 4 years into it, they're like, "Hey, bro, let's get together." So we had a day of shooting and blowing some anger out, and had some alcohol, and then we're sitting there talking. And the question was, what would happen? What's left behind if you die? And went around the table, it got to me. It's like, man, I've designed this beautiful curriculum. I think I've transformed some lives. If I die, the curriculum's dead. And they're like, oh, write another book. I'm like, God dang, dude. Writing a book is not simple. It's time consuming, it's demoralizing. And they're like, well, if you don't pass it on, then it will die with you. So the process of writing the Three Simple Things book was, it was arduous. Like
Yeah.
carrying a trap up a hill in the middle of winter. I'm like, oh, dude, it hurt.
Well,
And
thank you
then
for
it
writing it.
launched during a time when people were in chaotic environment. It launched a month after COVID hit.
Oh.
Oh,
And then I think
okay.
it was more didactic than it was, experiential, which was the Unbreakable, was just sharing experiences in a funny way,
Right.
as opposed to the Three Simple Things didactic solution.
Yeah. Well, in the Three Simple Things, it seemed to. I actually in my head I had it. After I read, it, I thought, Did you write Three Simple Things first or second? Because it seemed to directly grow out of what you were telling your kids in the
Yeah.
Unbreakable, right? The Three Simple Things, and just obviously there was a lot more in Three Simple Things in terms of the things that one would do.
Yeah, I was trying to solve how did I come up with this and what's been the outcome of like the transformational technology of teaching human beings to be better in those 5 areas, and trying to relate the story of where I came up to those realizations of those 5 areas and emotions and what to focus on, and mentorship and the alpha thing in the
Yeah.
last chapter. And
How do you mentor so many? I mean, I imagine that there must be a great demand for your mentorship. How do you manage? I'm just trying. Like, it doesn't seem in a good way. It seems difficult to scale because it's
yeah,
you.
so as a business, there are businesses that you can scale, and then there's other businesses that you cannot. So this currently cannot scale, and I fought that like crazy, and I don't want to be out of it. So to scale business, you got to take the leader out and create a process. I think it's
Right.
just a process. It doesn't need me, but so how I find clients is also the question that I only go with clients who are committed, wanted to have all 5 of those areas work in their life, and I make that upfront. And it's it was a year long. Now it's a 90-day process. Nobody does it in 90 days, but 3 times we meet. You got to do the shit that you promised to do. If you don't, I don't give you the second training. And I
That's what. Yeah.
I'm either
In the book.
inspired by people or I won't train them.
Mm.
You got to be up to something that like turns me on and turns you on, then okay, cool, we'll do it. And
So you have a selection process of your own for your clients.
yeah, I didn't at first. Like I would take all comers, and it was really destructive to me to not be inspired by people that I'm spending like a year with.
Yeah.
And 622 people have started training, and I've kicked 5 people out. I'm like, man, uh, you're killing me.
But that's not a lot though. I thought it was gonna be more that didn't make it.
Yeah, I didn't want to get rid of anybody, and I retained a lot of people in the first 2 years because I probably needed the money at the detriment to the training.
Hmm.
And I gave to everybody I've given the training to for free doesn't do it.
Right.
And
Yeah,
all my
for sure.
business mentors are like, don't ever give anything away for free. Not that you need the money, but if there's not perceived value, then you can read any book and it won't make any difference to you until you
Right.
try to put it in action. And but it's a 2x effect. So you're going to grow those 5 areas by 2x, but you got to be willing to grow them by 2x.
Yeah.
How do you double your business? It's easy. You're a bag of shit is why your business is caught where it is. You get healthy and have a good relationship at home, your business will 2x inherently.
Hmm.
And you've seen that play out
Yeah,
over the
600 plus times.
it's incredible.
I should
Really
just say, hey, I don't know what 10x means. 10x is crazy. Like the guy on the internet, the 10x
Yeah.
event,
Yeah.
10xing something, even as a medical doctor, that means 10 times growth. It's called a balloon. It's going to pop, bro.
Not healthy.
But 2xing, it's relatively simple or inherently inefficient in everything they do. Just getting efficiency and getting a great life under your belt, then things inherently will grow. Like weeding the garden makes good fruit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's another conversation that I have. But yeah.
Wow. That's great. Well,
Yeah, we should be cognizant of your
yeah,
time.
we should let her go.
you-
This is great. This is, I mean, we really appreciate
Sure.
Yeah.
you're taking the time.
Absolutely. And well, first of all, thank you for the time that you've devoted to this conversation. And as you said, thank you for the books,
For the books, for the service I mean, good God.
to the country. Yeah.
I sent
Yes,
this note before and I feel like we're talking to a superhero.
no, y'all are better than I am. I'm not willing to quit. So send me an address. I'll send you some books that I'll sign them and send them to you. If
That
that
would
That'd
means
be awesome.
something to
That'd be
you.
really cool.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
Speaking of which, where can people find you? Where can people find out? Because we're going to put links into the
Okay.
video. And
Yeah. Internet site, Thom Shea, THOMSHEA.com.
Mhm.
I fought that for years. So I
Yeah.
finally had to put my name on a website. I'm like, "God, it's not about me. So ThomShea.com and on social media, if you search Thom Shea, you'll find it.
Terrific.
Great.
Terrific.
Great.
Thank you so much again. We're
Thank y'all.
just,
Appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. Friends, thank you for your attention. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation. If you find value, please remember to hit the like button and help us with our YouTube algorithm. Consider subscribing to the channel and turn on the notifications so you can stay up to date with everything going on with the channel. And please leave us a comment, let us know what you thought about this show and also what you'd like to hear about in the future.